Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today I want to talk about a technique you can use to create kind of like an ambient reverb, something you could use for a movie soundtrack, maybe television show effects, or even in something like Botanica. I'm going to show it using my guitar, but of course you can use anything, and I'm going to be using MConvolutionMB for this. So I have my guitar sound. It's nothing particularly impressive. It just sounds like this. And we're going to use MConvolutionMB to turn it into this. So as you can hear, it's quite a big difference. What this will do is it will kind of smear your sound and create something longer that kind of fades in. So let me show you how you can do this. I'll go to something new. If you just turn on MConvolutionMB, you'll see this. What we need to do is just go in here and choose like the default or anything here. We need to make sure we're in the edit screen, so you don't want to be out here. If you do that, just go into edit, click the default, so there's nothing in here. Now, by default, this will be at 50%. For this type of effect, let's try to use 100%. It'll sound better, and then afterwards, if you don't want it 100%, you can just turn this down. We're only going to use one band here, although you could potentially use more, and maybe in a future video I'll show how you can do that for kind of interesting stuff. But we have this here. Usually you choose an IR file in MConvolutionMB, but we're going to use kind of a synthetic IR, fake IR. So we're going to go into reverb here. Now, if we have this, it sounds just like a normal reverb. If I play something on my guitar using this, we're getting normal reverb sound. Now, there's different modes here, and I'm going to change it in a second, but the first thing I want to do is turn off this enable decay. So this is what's giving us that kind of decrease in volume as time goes on. So if I play something like this, you see it fades out. If we turn this off, if you look at this little IR plot here, look what happens. So from the beginning to the end, it's around the same volume for all frequencies. So you hear it just kind of keeps going all the way through and then has an abrupt cutoff. And that's what we want. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to change this mode. So there's different modes here, like Hall, this sounds good. Let's try another one, Hall 2. A little bit different. Reflections. If you look at the plot, you can see what's a little bit different. It kind of fades in here for that one. Labyrinth. You see this one's kind of like grainy here that almost like repeats there. And then we have this one, Psycho. That one does sound weird. I don't know why that's making this like wobbling sound, but that happens sometimes. And so let's use this one. Here, the decay, since it's off, it's not going to do anything, but we can change the density here. So if I make it really short, this, or long, and so we'll find something in between there. Maybe here's okay. We can also adjust the dampening, so this will reduce the high end and low end. Let's turn that off, see what it sounds like. Yeah, I thought the density down was better. We can also adjust the size here, like this. Right down. Probably leave that where it was. And this early versus late, I really don't need any early reflection, so I just turn that all the way up. The big thing here is this length. So what I want to do is change the length to, let's say, the key or say the length of my song. So you can do whatever you want, but let's say 1 bar here, and this song at 70 beats per minute would be 3,428.5 milliseconds. So here, if I play it, I'll turn it down a little bit because it is getting a little bit loud. I don't want to get too loud. I might even try a different one. Let's try Labyrinth instead, see if this sounds any different. Sounding a bit too grainy, so I'll go back to Psycho here. And so you can adjust these parameters to find something that sounds right for you. But on top of that, there's a few other things you can do. Inside here, you can add modulation. So if I wanted to add this here, I'll try adding too much just so you can hear what it does. You hear that? Whoa, 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 that's probably too much. But if we turn it down to maybe a more manageable level, it'll give kind of like more ambient feel to it. That little bit of movement that the modulation gives by giving you kind of a pitch vibrato can sometimes make things sound better if you want a more ambient sound. So that's kind of up to you, but I'll leave that on. So now let's look at the other stuff. You see here it says volume LP and HP. So this is a volume envelope. And by doing this, what we can do is change it. So I turned the decay off before, but I can actually add it in by doing this. So we got it back. That's probably not too interesting. You're like, why would I want to do that? But I could do the opposite too, like this. So now listen to this. You see, my sound fades in. And there's all sorts of things. If I don't want it to be like that, like, oh, that's kind of taking too long, I can double click, add another node here, and just bring this down. So now, the first maybe 500 milliseconds or so, you're not going to hear anything, but then after that, it'll fade in fairly quickly. And we can adjust that here, make it longer fade in, etc. But there's other fun things we can do as well. So let me get rid of that node. So if we look in here and let's try something like sines, you're probably thinking like, okay, look, what is this? These are different modes to affect the curvature. So I think we're just in mode 1. So that allows us to bend this little node here like this and see, oh, okay, we can just move the curve like that. So that's somewhat interesting. And you can do the same thing here. This curve down, curve up, just click it and drag. But like all Melda plugins, there's more you can do with that. And so if we set it to sines here, like, hey, it's create a sine wave, but that's not so interesting. But look what happens if you drag it up or down. As I drag it up, it creates more and more waves. So let's say I have 4 waves here. It sounds like this. It's like a delay. And so in that case, since it's 4, it would be quarter notes. But if I made it 8, is that 8? 6. Can't see. There we go. 8. Now it's 8th notes. I can do as many as I want. I can even do weird ones like 15. Etc. So you can do that, and you can try some other ones like triangle, saw, pulse, etc. to see kind of what you get out of that. Don't want to do too much with that, but I think you get the idea. Next thing you can do is LP, and this works the same way, but this is a low pass filter. So this is the start of the IR, that's the end. So now it'll fade in, but using a low pass filter instead, like this. And you don't have to start there. So if you see the left side, it talks about decibels, but the right side, you see here, okay, here we have frequency. So here I'm starting at 20 hertz and sweeping up to 2000 kilohertz or 20,000 kilohertz. But I could start here like at 500 or so. And I can even do the same thing here if I wanted to. Do triangles this time. Move this up and down. So I get like low pass filter sweeps. You can kind of hear the sweeps happening in there. So if that's what you want to do. And we can do the same thing with the high pass filter. It, of course, starts at the bottom. So with it off, it sounds like this. But I can move it up here. And I can even have it sweep up over time like this. So the end of it gets brighter. Now, by using this, we can create some interesting sounds. So let's try something hopefully interesting. I'm going to go back to LP here. I'm going to move it back into mode 1. And what we're going to do is start this at 0. And then I'm quickly going to have it fade in like this. So I bent that up so it's going to quickly fade in from that low pass to maybe fully open here. And then I'll do the opposite here, since I can use low pass and high pass filters at the same time. Bring this side up. Bring this side. Actually, am I doing this right? I always forget about these low pass and high pass filters. Oh no, I am doing it backwards. Here we go. Bring this down and do kind of the same thing here. Actually, I don't want to do too much with this. So now if I do that, you'll see it should fade in and go from kind of like almost band pass to fully open over time. And that's where you're getting the sound. Now, if I play single lines, like let's say an arpeggio, for example, something like this. It sounds like an arpeggio, but if I turn this on, it turns it into like a chord or a soundscape like this. Now, this is cool because you can take a single line and turn it into something kind of interesting and ambient like. Of course, I could play the chord. This. Now I had distortion on, so it may not sound quite as good. But I think playing it as an arpeggiated shape sounds really interesting because you get to hear it kind of morph over time. You can also play things that aren't chords, just like single lines like this. So this has a lots of movement and things in it, and you could easily use this in the background of something, or you could even use this for maybe composition for, let's say, a pad instead. So something like this. So you can do that as kind of a chord progression if you want to. Uh, kind of played that. The rhythm was kind of off there. Probably shouldn't have done that, but you get the idea. And you can adjust that however you want. I'm using this length here, but you could, of course, make this shorter. I think the shorter length, it doesn't sound quite as good. So I'll play this if it's only 429. Yeah, so I think that's not quite as good. I can also do it really long, let's say like 6,857. So this is twice the length as it was before. I think in that case, they're running into each other a bit too much. Also, probably my fault for playing it the way I did, but you hopefully get the idea. So those are some things you can do with it. But besides that, like I said, it can be used for just effects. So some things I could do is if I just play something simple like a chord. You probably heard that in the background of maybe some old 90s TV show or something like that. Also, if you play kind of a interesting chord or scale, you can get a kind of atmosphere from that too. So for that, I'm just playing like I think the first one was a major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio, and then I went into like a whole tone scale, and then just diminished arpeggios. So those types of things can help create kind of an interesting atmosphere. And of course, you can try playing notes together. Like if I play two notes semitone apart, sounds like this, or a major seventh. So these are things you probably hear like an old uh like TV show or something in the background. But these can be used for sound effects, but also in your own musical compositions, you'll probably find some use for it. So hopefully this gave you a good idea of what you can do with this. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Leave me any questions or comments down below, and be sure to check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.